Oh,
Thus
yeah.
the sound from Christian's computer.
We're ready to go. Okay.
I guess so.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to call to order the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal informal session for September 22nd, 2022. This is the first day of fall, so welcome to pumpkin spice season. It is 10 o'clock in the morning, and Ken, if you could lead us in the flag salute. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item C is our calendar session. I think there was something this weekend with Sheridan.
Grand opening of the firehouse.
Yes.
Grand opening of the Sheridan Firehouse. I forgot that. I don't know if that was on there, but okay.
Sunday.
Oh, it's Sunday. Okay. What
And-
time is that? 7 to 1. Okay.
And I need to check, but I'm pretty sure that the Northwest Research and Extension Center Harvest Dinner
It's
is Friday night.
right tomorrow night.
Yeah, tomorrow night. That's it.
Tomorrow night, and it's early. It's
like
like
5.
5.
Recording
in progress.
Testing. We could do Smoothie Halloween. Testing. Okay. Should we keep going?
That's just the thing that I run in we had on.
Oh, it's glitching. The recording is glitching.
Recording in progress.
Yes.
I think that Marion County gets the applicant's responsibility to go to all the taxing districts.
Yeah, can you imagine? I mean, it's pretty daunting. Like,
How badly do you want?
Taking initiative.
If anybody on.
Test.
testing.
Well, it's test. Okay. I think we're okay. Sorry.
Do we
Sorry
have
for the technical interruption.
Can Noelle, if she's watching, can she let us know?
Ask McKaylee if she can hear us. Okay.
You think we're okay? Okay, so we will pick right back up at the calendar session. We'd mentioned the OSU Harvest Dinner is tomorrow night. I think it's in Aurora.
Yep.
And then October 1st and 2nd is the McMinnville Scottish Festival at the fairgrounds. So that's the next weekend. Okay, so item D is public comment. This time period is reserved for public comment on any topic other than an agenda item, a quasi judicial land use matter, or a topic scheduled for a public hearing. We did receive some written comment this morning. One of them was forwarded from me, what I assume is a constituent, perhaps not, but I forwarded it for the record just to simply state that when we see things come in that are attacking our spouses or our children, the message is very strongly going to be that that's not
That's not okay.
tolerated. It's not okay. And I want to make that clear, that we stand behind each other
Thank you.
against that. Okay.
Appreciate it.
There was another public comment. I'm not sure if anyone had a chance to digest that. Okay, did you want to speak to that, Commissioner?
Yes. This is the initiative I addressed on a number of times with the housing. Something that involved me.
Thank
I
you.
turned mine off too, so.
Thanks. Basically, there is basically a private contract issue regarding a contractor through the housing authority, and this is not within our jurisdiction to address. I've tried to address this with the constituent and have put them in touch, and the executive director of the housing authority has been in touch. And this has been a very long-standing, complex complaint, but it does not involve us, and the housing authority is, from everything I can see, not involved in this dispute. So hopefully we can get that point across, because there's nothing we can do.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's helpful for the context. Thank you.
Mhm.
Great.
Ma'am,
Yes.
would be about-
Okay.
that's my situation.
Would you like to make?
Yes, you're welcome to come up and
Yes.
provide
And
testimony.
Excuse me, can you just give your, excuse me, give us your name and address for the record?
Yes.
And you're
My name is
Michelle? Okay, welcome,
Edwards.
Michelle.
I'm the lady that lives on 14th and Galloway on the corner that decorates for every holiday for our community. So I was told I have 3 minutes if I'm lucky. So I'm gonna make a long story as short as possible. I adopted my 5 children from the state of Oregon. They're all siblings, to keep them all together many years ago, 2 separate adoptions, single mom. Through this adoption and raising these children, I did become disabled, and now I'm permanently disabled. Last 7 years, 4 years, 7 major surgeries. So that is how I ended up being qualified and eligible to be in the housing authority program to buy a home. What has happened is that I qualified for reasonable accommodations because of my disabilities, so that I can get downstairs where my laundry area is. Most people don't realize that that house is 2 separate
Mhm.
levels and that it's pretty big. So it is important that I'm able to get down to my finished basement and also where my children's bedrooms are. All my children have moved out. They went on to college, except for one. I have a 16-year-old still at home. And what happened was we were to put in a bathroom. I got a loan to put in a bathroom downstairs and a new laundry room. When that happened, it was through a housing authority program. It's a loan against the equity in my home. It will have to be paid back. So a $17,000 job went into a $52,000 job. What had happened is COVID hit. My disabilities got worse, and the contractors did something to my home that has caused my home to flood every winter since in the downstairs basement, to where I can't access it. I cannot go down there and do laundry. My children cannot be downstairs. No one can be downstairs. It is a hazard. It's dirty, and it is not okay.
So while I go to the contractors board and I've explained to them, this continues to happen and there is no one that wants to help. My reasonable accommodations have still not been met and my house is worse than it ever was because now it's dangerous. So I do have a subsidy on my home through Housing Authority. And every time I came to the Housing Authority and sat down and explained, I was told you have to go to the contractors board. That does not have anything to do with us. Okay, I did that. But because of my medical issues and because of COVID, the contractors board, there was no communication. They were not hearing me. They were not listening to me. And it seemed to be too much for them to follow through on what was going on. If it was their home, I guarantee you they would have been following through. So what had happened was I just continued to be told, you missed the mark, you missed the deadline. There's nothing we can do. I go back to the Housing Authority. And as I said, I started adopting my children in 1999. I know everyone over there. I go over, I say, come on, guys, this isn't right. Here's where the problem is. I had hired local contractors and in midstream in the summer, I was told that they are doing fraudulent work and they're putting in fraudulent paperwork to the Housing Authority. And we're suggesting in our professional opinion, because this is what we do, you need to fire them and we're going to get the contractors off of our list and we are going to help you hire them. This is while I'm going through back-to-back knee replacements. This is while I'm trying to heal and on medicated brain. And I'm trying to do all these things when I'm not even supposed to be walking. 3 failed back surgeries after that. I believe this is a lot that has to do with it. Anyway, I am told from the Housing Authority, there is nothing you can do. We have no say over what happened. And I said, Darcy, listen to me. I said, you got a hold of these contractors. You helped me hire them because they just want to say, you are the one that hired them. It's your deal. It's your issue. You deal with it. And so in the end, to make a very long story short, I have a home that floods downstairs and I can't do my laundry. I can't get down there and access my home. But there is no reasonable accommodations that ever worked out. $50,000 of my equity is gone. That will have to be paid back. And my home is FUBAR. And the Housing Authority will not do anything about it. They say it is my contract and my signature. However, they are the ones in their professional opinion, while I'm having these medical disabilities and issues, that held my hand and told me how to deal with this. And so I'm just here to tell you guys that this is what has happened. And I'm out $50,000 on a loan that'll have to be paid back. I have a downstairs that floods every single winter, and I can't even do my laundry during that time. And my kid can't even go downstairs with her friends. None of the cheer team. I can't have any of my volleyball kids that like to come to the house. My house is known in the community. It is a child's house. Everyone comes there. They swim there. They play there. They can't even access downstairs anymore because of this. And all I'm ever told is, it was your deal. You deal with it. So nothing ever came out of it, except my house is ruined now. And since this has happened with the knee replacements, 4 surgeries there, since this has all happened, I have had 3 back surgeries, 2 failed within 6 weeks. My 3rd one has got hardware I'm hoping holds. And these are the stairs that I have to go up and down in the conditions that I have to try to traipse through just to get laundry done and hope that my child doesn't get electrocuted, or who knows what could happen to her down there while I'm not able to get down there. That's where her bedroom is. Part-time during the year now, that's where her bedroom is. So that's what I'm here for.
So do we know if there's any contractual obligations with Housing Authority where you have to use certain contractors? Is it does it go through them? Is it authorized through them?
Well, I think there's so many layers to this, and my conversations with Vicky and her conversations with Darcy, what I was told was that when an individual, and I really don't think this is the forum to talk about it, because there's a lot of legal considerations, and I don't feel it's appropriate to address those. But I've heard your concerns. I've brought them to the Housing Authority to the degree that the Housing Authority is not a county department. Certainly, we liaise with them and we work with them. But when it comes to those types of things, especially when you've got an individual complaint with a contractor, it's not something that we can address as a board, nor is it something that the Housing Authority, from what I understand, has been able to address. So I don't know that this is the place for that, but I know that there have been many conversations on your behalf regarding this issue. And my initial inquiries were, how do we resolve this? And I was told that basically it was sort of, there was an impasse because this was a contract that you had signed. So at this point, I as I said, further discussion, I don't think is going to be fruitful, but I know that it's been brought to their attention, and our jurisdiction ends with basically our working with them. So I don't see that this is the appropriate jurisdiction for that. As much as I've tried to figure out, I get the same answers that you've gotten regarding the limitations of the Housing Authority when you have signed a private contract. So the contractors board is the appropriate venue. Issues with them, I can't address and we can't address. So I wish I could offer you a solution, but I don't know that this board has the authority to do anything to fix this regarding an issue with a private contractor that we did not, enter into.
Okay, I was told to come here today from the head of the Board of Commissioners for HUD. Very disrespectful, very arrogant man, by the way.
From HUD?
And yes, the Board of Directors from HUD. He told me there's two different Board of Directors, that I have to come here today and be heard. And then that there is a Board of Directors for HUD specifically, and I also have to go there. And he has also told me to go to the Commissioners Board in person like I'm doing now. So I'm probably getting the runaround once again. But that's what I'm told to do. So that's what I'm going to do.
And you've addressed this with the Board of the Housing Authority.
I have went above and beyond
No,
in every way.
I just want to know if have you
Yes.
gone to the Board
No,
of,
personally like this, no, not face to face, but I'm told that that's what I have to do. My problem is not just with the contractors. My problem is the way that the Housing Authority handled this while I was going through medical issues, the hiring and the firing, and suggesting that I do this because in their advice and their profession, that is what I was told to do.
Mhm.
When it came down to there's issues, well, then they put their hands up and they have nothing to do with it. However, I was coerced into that situation.
my recommendation at this point is to come before the Board of the Housing Authority Board, and they meet monthly, and I am at every meeting. And if that would be if that's not an avenue that is I think the most direct route, but I think going to the executive director and dealing with some of their limitations, again, I think that was a good first step. But I would recommend, and I can send you the information on the next meeting and how to get on the meeting by Zoom. It would be probably easier because of your limitations physically. It might be easier that way. And then you can address the entire board, which is made up of, it's a citizen advisory board. It's not just Housing Authority members. And that would give you a broader scope, because we do have people who are conversant with construction and contractors issues. That I think might be a good next step.
I'm definitely crossing all my T's, dotting all my I's, and that is what That's what the commissioners board told me
Okay.
to do when it comes to the housing part. But they also told me to come here. So that's why I'm here and that's why I'm doing this. But as I was being told these steps
Mhm.
and what we're talking about today, the gentleman, which I pretty much lost hope. The gentleman was very, very arrogant, very disrespectful and very rude. And if that's what I have to deal with,
I'm sorry you had that experience.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the HUD board, but I think the best step, and I can we can have a phone conversation after today so that I can tell you basically who's going to be at the board meeting so that you'll have an idea of who will be listening to this. And then I'll reach out again to the executive director at the Housing Authority. But I think today, what we can do is the next positive step is to get you in front of the board of the Housing Authority. They're the ones who can fix this. This board can't.
but you've heard me.
I have.
We have heard you.
And
That's
we
what
have.
matters.
So thank you. Thank you for coming. And I hope this gets resolved.
Thank you,
Thank
Michelle.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
And Michelle, I'm following up with an email with some other contacts for you too. So it's the email that you sent us for your public comment.
Yes, I just know that ethically and morally, whoever is not responsible, it's still wrong.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. In my experience with Housing Authority is that they do have contractors represented on that board specifically
Yes.
that could potentially alleviate some of this.
Right.
So,
And these are, the specifics of this have been addressed at the Housing Authority management level. But I've been at the meetings and I've not heard this addressed at the board
Board
level.
level.
And I think this would be really important
Yeah.
to at least get this in front of the board.
I agree. That was a really great suggestion, Commissioner. So thank you. Okay, so other than the written testimony, public testimony that was submitted, do we have anyone in the audience that is here to provide public testimony or in the virtual audience? Please raise your hand. Okay, hearing none. We will move on to item E, which is our department update, and we will be joined by Shane Hoffman today, Director of IT. Welcome, Shane.
Thank you.
Testing, testing.
Sounds good.
All right, well, good morning, Commissioners, Administration, guests in the audience. So my update today will be comprised of a few sections. First, we're going to talk about security, then some major projects we've been working on, and then talk about each tier on the IT team and some of the projects and tasks that they're working on. So let's start with security. So as always, we're always trying to improve our security posture. So some of the things that we've been working on since the last update is software updates to newer versions for security and licensing compliance. We've been negotiating outage windows with departments to continue to update our firmware on network switches. We've implemented two-factor authentication on servers, switches, firewalls, and Global Protect. I think as a customer, the Global Protect would affect you, the others affect IT. But a lot of those were put in place just to remain compliant with our insurance company and what they were asking for. Our network administrator, Chris Roberts, he's also been working on network segmentation. And this basically offers better security controls because traffic is more restricted in terms of where it can go on our network. Also working on our yearly penetration list of to-dos and working with CIS Security, that's the Center for Internet Security. And we're trying to take advantage of some of the product offerings. They have some examples, they have policy templates. They also have some security assessment tools that we can kind of gauge where we're at as an organization. Cybersecurity training. We're all familiar with that one. This refers to, of course, the security information we send out, the quarterly mandatory training, and of course, the phishing tests. So I have some stats for you for the phishing tests. This is basically the click rate. So our account average phish prone is 9.1%. Last campaign was 6.4. And industry average for government is 3.9. So
We failed.
So we have a little bit of work to do. I got to work with administration on that. I actually, from what I've seen, what I think it is, and I've said this before and encourage people to always go look on the intranet or at our best practices. The more you look at them and the more you apply them, it slows you down at the start. But as you get more familiar with them, you become quicker and you know what to look for. Because in all cases, they are getting tougher in some cases to, should I click or shouldn't I? But there are, in every case, there are true signals there. So anyway, we do have some work to do there. I will say, as an organization, that we've come a long way since the 27% days. So like that was our first one. So that's good news. Windows updates and patching, of course, reviewing our security logs constantly and taking remedial action as necessary. And as always, I would be more than happy to meet with you on an individual basis if you want to take a deeper dive and ask more questions about our security. Let's move on to projects. So Oracle, of course, that's a big one, and IT's a part of that. In our programming team, we have Todd Pettijohn and Byron Scher. They're doing a great job supporting Oracle. They manage and administer the security. They're providing data from our legacy system GEMS, just providing any assistance as needs arise, attending the business process familiarization meetings, and working through case scenarios with the subject matter experts. So they're pretty much attending all the meetings that we have. John Burns and Chris Roberts, they also are helping in special cases where we may need Active Directory accounts, setting up two-factor authentication, or making any firewall changes. We helped transition HHS in Newburgh to a new building. I think overall that was one of the better experiences, I think, from the IT side. And we actually had a dedicated a couple of resources to that. Chris Roberts did a wonderful job leading that project, and Rulon Jaime did an outstanding job just setting up all the equipment and any kind of follow-up work. We're currently working with maintenance to assist corrections with a few projects they have going on. At my next update, I will provide some more detail on those projects. I'm part of the website RFP review committee. The team consists of Jason Hennis from HHS, Carrie Martin, and Dan Nelson from my team. We're targeting September 30th for our scorecards for vendors, and then a follow-up meeting to review the scores and select a vendor. Once that happens, I will write a memo with details and the proposed vendor seeking board approval. So that should happen sometime in October. Participated on the rural broadband RFP committee. Okay, that's the major projects. So let's kind of look at each tier and some of the things they're focused on. So the programmers, as all tiers, there's always day-to-day issues that come up, but some of the projects they've been working on right now, they're closely working with the tax assessor department for the tax roll turn. We had a new hire that started in March, Byron Scher, and he's doing a great job. He's working with Todd and really becoming the leads on our Oracle technical team. And he's also learning our legacy systems to provide support there as well. Updates for the tax assessor software, ProVal and Ascend. We've had training and rolled out DocuWare for county council. Reports for the sheriff's office. Dan Nelson, he does a great job supporting the jail and corrections, Tableau, website updates, and providing data for the EDBMI policy group. We've been migrating reports to newer versions of software. And lastly, Robert Frisbee, I think he's been with us for about a year and a half. He's the senior programmer analyst for HHS. And he's doing an awesome job juggling many priorities and projects that HHS give to him. Desktop support. So day-to-day issues, obviously, and as well as they're leading the desktop laptop replacement program, MDT support, software compliance projects, and Windows 11 is a big one right now. We have to have all county devices upgraded to Windows 11 by October of 2025, because that's when we'll no longer get support for Windows 10. So what we've done right now is we have testers in each department that we're working with. And next week we have a meeting to start reviewing those results. We will need to get manager, department head approval before we can proceed with any one department. Some of the challenges are, even if the test is good for Windows 11, you still have to be careful and follow up with the third-party software. Like, for example, I'm working with Derek right now and making sure ProVal and Ascend, are they validated on Windows 11? And I heard that they're not. So then the big question is, when are they? And if they aren't, if they have no plans, will we lose support? Because if you update and all of a sudden the vendor, you put a support call in and they say, okay, well, what OS are you running? Oh, on Windows 11. Well, you haven't validated. I'm sorry, we can't help you. That's the issue. So it's a real balancing act. Our hope is we can have some departments that it can at least transition. And if that's the case, we could start pushing out Windows 11 as part of our replacement program so that between now and 2025, we can get a lot of those devices through the natural process. Otherwise, we have to start making a plan for those ones that won't get addressed as to, how and when and the timing. So that's a big one coming up for us. Let's see. So we had a new desktop support specialist that started on September 9th. And we're excited to get that help. And he's going to take the lead on the laptop desktop deployments. So we now have 3 people, Jaime, Rule, and Brian, to support approximately 750 people. So they're still very busy, but we're excited for this new position. So I want to thank the commissioners for your support and approval for this position. Help desk, of course, they're working on tickets and answering phones as needed for a first line of support. And they're also supporting Oracle. There was a lot of change in our processes in IT when we went live July 1st. And from an Oracle perspective, it mainly affected help desk and how they do their job. But I will say Diane and Delva put a lot of time in learning Oracle ahead of time, and we're really prepared for the change. In my opinion, they did an outstanding job with the change and the adoption to Oracle. Our network administrator and systems administrator, John Burns and Chris Roberts, they're working on most of the action items for our security improvements, replacing, updating camera systems, server updates to newer operating systems, planning for our server storage refresh. And actually, you have a memo today to review our recommendations, and we're seeking board approval for purchase and to start making plans for that. So that's something on the agenda for today. Adding, replacing access control systems, software compliance projects. And another big one is wireless access points. We're actually staying with the same vendor, but we had a meeting and then our network administrator, Chris Roberts, started looking into it a little bit more. And what's really working out well is we can move from a licensed version to an unlicensed version, and we don't really lose any functionality that we use. And so next year, we're going to save about $10,000 per year in licensing and maintenance costs by moving to that other version. So that's a good thing. Let's see, increased resiliency on the network, really just providing some redundancy and expanding our bandwidth is what that's about, just creating those alternate paths. So if something goes down, you have a little bit of redundancy built in. So we're always looking for places where we can put that in place. And then right now, we're actually working with the city of Yamhill to provide access to our network so they can get access to the CAD and RMS systems at YCOM. And then they use Report Manager at the county. And as far as from a YCOM perspective, they only really allow you to access the CAD and RMS either through the city or through the county. It's your only place you can go. So the sheriff, he's asked me to work with the Chief Graven and his team, and that's what we're doing. So that's currently in progress. And lastly, I just want to say thanks to my team for the value add and the great service I think they provide to the county. And so that's all I got for you. So is there any questions?
Thank you, Shane. Quick update on the county clerk's office there. I know there was some issues there, technical issues, IT issues, maybe camera issues. Is that moving along okay and resolved some of those, or?
Yeah, everything's moving along. In fact, I think they're putting a new camera system in over there.
Okay.
And Carrie is, she's been, contacting us a lot, and we're really trying, making sure that we give her the service she needs. So she's, a lot going on over there, obviously, and learning a new position and all the things that go on there. And then Hart was in last week, their vendor for the elections. We had actually, I think 5 or 6 people that showed up from that. It was a very short session for the IT portion, but we threw everything at it because you never know if it's, I had programmers there, desktop support, net admin, sysadmin, just in case, depending what the issue is. So, and I do follow up with Carrie periodically, just to make sure she's doing okay and just, hey, is there anything we can do for you? So yeah, we're working really closely with that office to move ahead and get any needs that she has. We're again, we're addressing it as quickly as we can, and she really becomes, she's a priority right now for sure.
Great.
So,
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
Commissioners, any questions for Shane?
Well, I just want to thank you. It's just nice to have you in the position that you're in because you've done a great job. And the ambitious security efforts have been wonderful. And I really appreciate the fact that you call us out by name when we click on things we shouldn't. So it's sort of that
Oh, he
public
does.
public shaming component.
List of shame.
A list of shame. And so thank you for that. And also your help desk has been invaluable. And I think you need to devote one full-time person just to me. Because I call them an awful lot, but really do appreciate everybody in your office. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. And like I said, with the security, it's really a team sport, especially for IT. And, you know, I have great people on the team and my management team with John and Chris, they really do a fabulous job on the security. And we're always, you know, each week trying to make it just a little better. So at the end of the year, we've made some good progress. And I think we've come a long way in the last few years. And so it's a pleasure working with them every day. And I appreciate your kind words.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Thanks.
Okay. Item F is our work session. We have no work sessions today. Item G is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Commissioner Kula moves approval. Is there further discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Item H is old business. We have nothing under old business. I'm gonna find some documents here for just a quick second. Okay, item I1, consideration of approval of an intent to award a construction contract to Hicks Striping and Curving, Inc. for the 2022 Highway Striping Services Project in the amount of $288,547.50. Do I have a motion to approve?
Chair, I move approval.
Okay, Commissioner Kula moves approval. Is there discussion or questions? See Mark here?
None.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
No. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes. Item I2 is consideration of approval in the matter of an order regarding the sale of surplus tax foreclosed property at public auction, accepting the sheriff's return following the sale. And I don't know, Jody, if you wanted to speak a little bit to this.
Sure. So, I believe we've been in front of the board once to talk about some of these properties, but if we want to dive deeper into any of those individual properties on that list, I do want to mention before I forget, on Exhibit A and Exhibit B, there's one typo under Property 1. It's just a tax lot numbers is mixed up. So I'm going to make sure that that gets fixed before the board order is ready for signature, if it's approved.
Okay.
But if there's any of the properties that you want to talk about specifically, and then also if you want to talk about where to set the minimum bid, I just sort of went with 50% of real market value, but that was just me sort of picking a number. So if you want to go lower, you want to go higher, that's entirely up to you. And if you have questions about the process, I can talk you through that. So as much info as you want from me, I'm happy to present.
We did discuss some of these before, but
Not
that
all
was
of
in
them. Yeah.
executive session, maybe?
It was,
if
yes,
I'm
correct.
remembering. Okay,
Yeah.
was that, I can't remember if we discussed 50%. Was that something that came out of that? Okay.
No,
No, it was- we didn't give direction. That's
Okay.
my recollection.
Right.
So you had to do something.
I came up with
Okay.
50%, but I think in my research, asking around to other counties, most go with 75% real market value, and I thought that was high, so I went with 50, but
And
shot in the dark.
And with the 50%, if it is too high for the auction, then it
Then-
goes off the auction block. And
Yeah.
it can be purchased
It
through a
can-
different process. right?
Yes, yeah. So if it fails at auctions, if nobody bids on it, we can do a private sale to directly with anybody. Yeah.
And some of these smaller properties, like we've had what we call orphans in the past, where basically they're little slivers and you go to the neighboring property owners and
Mhm.
typically, will you use that same rate when you go to them? So you're basically going at that 50% rate when you offer it to them.
So statute. Ooh, I'm gonna have to try to remember this one. So statute dictates how much we can sell it for at private sale if it fails at auction. And it's some percentage.
It's 85%. of
Oh, look at you.
the-
Good.
it's
Yeah.
85.
Okay.
On those private sales, we have sort of set it.
Okay.
If there's the whole thing, it's below $50,000.
We can.
Put those in the paper and notify the basic
Yeah.
owners and see who comes forward with interest. Sometimes you have more than one. Folks who bid on these properties,
Mhm.
other times it's just one person.
Right.
forward and they bid. So, that's the.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
It just can't, if it goes to auction, it can't go below a certain number.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the work you've done on this, and Noelle as well.
Noelle
Yes.
especially.
She's done a
Yes.
lot of work on this. Thank you.
And if we have, by no means, it's
Mm-mm.
that surplus property that we have, so
Mhm.
there may be another
Mhm.
one or two parcels that,
Yeah.
back to the board for this auction. This may be the list for this auction. And then the goal would be to have these auctions a little more frequently than we have in the
Mhm.
past. So, and I don't. Is there a floor for the minimum bids? If you go with those 25%,
I don't believe there's a floor,
but
but I don't think we would ever go lower than the amount of taxes owed
Yeah.
originally.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
it takes a while to get back up to
Mhm. And this is a long list, at least in my experience, so it'll probably be a long auction already.
Right.
So
Mhm.
I warned the sheriff's office though, so they're prepared.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, commissioners, how do we feel about 50%? As minimum
I
bids?
feel like that makes sense,
Mhm.
Carrie, as a starting point, and then, team will need to reassess if things are not moving at that, right?
Okay,
Right. No, I agree with that. Thank
But I
you.
think giving them the authority on that.
okay,
Thank you.
okay, so we need to approve the list, correct?
Chair, I move approval of item I2, approval of the surplus tax foreclosed property list.
Okay. Commissioner Starrett moves approval. Is there further questions or discussion?
No chair.
So
Okay.
just to clarify, the board order is going to approve the list, give us authority to do the
Mhm.
advertisement. And then after the sales over, the sheriff has to do a return of sale and submit, forgetting the wording. But this gives all of that authority so that the next time we come back to you, it will be for the deeds themselves.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Okay,
Okay.
yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you, Jody.
Thanks, Jody.
Okay, item I3 is consideration of approval to accept a quote and purchase from Structured for Nutanix. That's right. Server storage infrastructure and support for the 2022-23 fiscal year in the amount of $146,840. And this is one of the things that Shane mentioned earlier for a new server. Do I have a motion to approve?
Chair, I move that we approve item I3.
Okay, Commissioner Kula moves approval. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Item I4, consideration of approval in the matter of a contract with Sierra Santa Fe in the amount of $742,670 for annual chip seal paving and incorporating a change order in the amount of $118,280 to perform additional work on Star Quarry Road. And I see we have Director Lago here in the audience in case anybody has any questions. Mark, actually, I have a quick question about the change order, if you could. So just for clarification, we had budgeted 270,000 for Star Quarry, is that right?
Yes, when we were.
Previously?
Previously, but not to chip seal, actually to basically till it up
Oh.
and do the base and the surface.
Okay. So is this more of an economy of scale thing to do it all together?
No, this actually, we have an opportunity to actually save some dollars within our budget and try a different process.
Okay,
So, and that this might extend that road to 10 years from where it's at right now.
Okay.
Instead of putting all that money into the tilling up and concrete and rebasing it.
gotcha.
And
Okay.
it's a great experiment because as you know, Star Quarry Road, it gets a lot of heavy traffic.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does, especially with the
Okay.
quarry there.
Okay, I appreciate
Okay.
the answer. Commissioners, any questions for Mark?
So the term is fog seal. Is that the new process?
Well, that's what the industry says. It's basically, it's a seal that goes over the road is what that is. When you say fog seal, it's not basically a seal on the fog line. It's a seal of the whole road.
Oh, the whole, okay.
Right.
And that's
Okay.
that almost $13,000 addition.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, if there's no further discussion, I will move approval of item I4. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
you.
Mark.
And I think
Thanks,
it's
Mark.
due to be complete or the contract by tomorrow.
That
right?
was
So,
pretty quick, yeah.
Good timing.
Thank you for your approval.
yeah, thanks for just jumping on it.
11th hour.
Okay, item I5 is discussion of updates to the Newburgh Urban Area Management Commission bylaws. And I see we are being joined by our planning director, Ken Friday. Welcome, Ken.
If I could just,
Sure, sure.
and I'm really talking about both I5 and I6.
Okay.
And I'm glad Mark is here because he did have some.
Hey,
gave us
Ken.
some assistance with this.
Ken,
Oh, you're,
thank you.
Okay, for on item I5 and I6, last year an application was made to expand the Newburgh Urban Reserve Area. And historically, the Newburgh Urban Area Management Commission, known as NUMAC, had reviewed these types of cases and made recommendations to the City Council and Board of Commissioners. In reviewing the rules to govern the conduct of business, it was unclear if actually NUMAC had the authority to review urban reserve area expansion applications. No one wanted to go through the process and find out that we had some sort of a procedural error. So in order to avoid a challenge based on the lack of clarity, an update was initiated. NUMAC reviewed the proposal to do these amendments to both the rules and bylaws at their November 23rd, 2021 and July 27th, 2022 hearings. And I know it's been a while, but our legal counsel also reviewed the amendments. At their last hearing, NUMAC voted 6-0 on a motion to recommend the proposed amendments be forwarded to the Newburgh City Council and Board of Commissioners for review and adoption. On August 15th, City Council reviewed these changes and adopted them through resolution. The one item that we did gain in this rewrite was to note that the city will assume ownership of and maintenance responsibility for county roads that are within the corporate limits of the city of Newburgh. And I really appreciated Mark and
Big
his
deal.
team.
Yeah. Yeah.
For identifying, we have 20 roads or portions of roads that are inside the city limits under county maintenance. Now, I know adoption of this isn't going to magically have all those roads go over, but at least we'll have something in writing that says these roads that are in the
That's the
city
intent.
limits ought to go
There you
actually
go.
to the
Yeah.
city. So based on this, I recommend adoption of the updated NUMAC agreement and bylaws. And let me know if there are any questions.
Chair, I just want to add,
Sure.
as a member of that commission, I know we have another commissioner here, Kit Johnston. It's been laborious because this is a group that we haven't had meetings for 12 years. And there haven't been amendments or revisions for 40 years. So we're looking at a lot of updating, and I appreciate what the city's done. I appreciate the fact that the commission has worked diligently on this. And the meeting where we discussed whether or not the city was going to take over the maintenance of the county roads, that was a no. And then I was very happy to hear that we're going to address it that way. So appreciate the city on that. So yeah, I would recommend that these are well vetted.
So basically, the crux of this is that the process doesn't change. It's just we were concerned about the legal authority that NUMAC had to review.
That's correct. The
Okay.
process has not changed. It just notes that in this process, we have the urban reserve area can be reviewed. It's clearly called out in the agreements.
Okay. Great. So we have to, is it just the bylaws that we are approving, or is?
It's both the bylaws
And-
and then the agreement. So that's I-5 and I-6.
Okay, so we'll do two separate votes just to,
Yeah.
um,
And we should probably note it as approve update. Was it approve updates or ratify?
I think it's approve updates. I think it would be a board order. I'm looking to legal counsel.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
To approve the amendment. Commission is an outgrowth of the agreement. Second. Or, I believe, to act on the approval of the amendment.
Perfect.
okay. So I will move that we approve the amended Newburgh Urban Area Growth Management Agreement. Any further discussion?
Would that be two separate? I'm sorry, maybe I missed something. Item 5, are we doing them separately or
Oh,
are we
I
just?
think
Yes.
we moved, a chair moved I-6, essentially a version of I-6 first.
Okay.
Okay,
That's how
so
it was
technically
created.
we're doing 6 first.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, if there's no further
We can
discussion,
go up, we can go down. Yeah.
whatever works.
No, chair, no more discussion for me.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Now back to item I-5. I will move approval of the amended Newburgh Urban Area Management Commission bylaws. Any further discussion?
Just thank you, an acknowledgement both staff and to UAC itself.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Ken, for being at those meetings. I appreciate it.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. And thank you, Ken. Okay, so item I-7 is consideration of a rural industrial incentive program. And commissioners, this is something I added to the agenda. As you can see, it's been talked about for quite some time. Dating back to last year, when we first started. It's been a while.
I actually couldn't remember. So thank you.
Yeah, and this is a program, just a basic overview. This is a program that is enabled through a bill that came out of the Senate Bill 1565 in 2016, that allowed cities and counties to adopt these rural tax exemption programs. And the point of it was really to match what the cities have and their abilities with enterprise zones. So they wanted to be able to make those opportunities the same for rural businesses and sort of level the playing field there. So if you have somebody who's looking at making a $10 million investment and they get 3 years of a tax exemption in a city or an enterprise zone, but they don't in the rural area, where's the money going to go, right? So it really was an attempt to kind of level the playing field in terms of what's available to people, large corporations, businesses in cities versus what is there in rural areas. You'll see as a part, I included the letter from SEDCOR, and we have Abisha Stone here today from SEDCOR, but I did include the letter of endorsement from them in the packet. What you also are seeing is Marion County, so they've adopted this program. And this is their actual application. So this is what a business would fill out and look at if they're going to try and participate in this exemption program. I believe it was an ordinance that they had to pass that then was codified into their code. So that's really that's the initial process for us, would be to determine how, if we do this program, what kind of parameters do we want to set on it? Do we want to have special circumstances where, we ask that these businesses create a set number of new jobs or a percentage of new jobs or whatever that might be. And that is included in Marion County's plan as well. They require that the business partner with, I think, WorkSource Oregon to make sure that they are extending the pipeline of new positions to the folks who go through WorkSource. So, and then it really kind of falls onto the assessor to look at each application that comes in, assess whether or not they meet the criteria, and then the assessor makes a recommendation to the board. We look at it and see whether or not this is something that we want to approve. So it's on a case-by-case basis. Derek's memo from last year, August of last year, is in here as well. He did have some conversations with the Marion County assessor as to how they've kind of gone through this program and some of the things that they've noticed. Currently, I did talk to one of the Marion County commissioners yesterday. Currently, they have several folks that participate. One of them is a farm that produces, or business that produces fertilizer. And then there's another, I think it's a hops farm or something like that that's participating. So basically what it is, it's the same type of exemption program that we do in other ways. The business would have an exemption for up to 3 years. And then after the 3 years, their entire real market value would go back onto the tax rolls. So I asked the Commissioner Willis, what they liked about this program versus some other programs, because we have, urban renewal and we have all these other things that we sort of look at. They liked this program because it's short term, it's only 3 years. And so there's a very clear quote unquote payoff, I suppose, for the county in terms of the tax revenue that will be experienced 20, 30, 40 years down the road, right? So they liked that. They liked that it was short term. They liked that it really was targeted towards rural businesses and provided some of those incentives and opportunities for rural businesses. And that it was fairly easy for the tax assessor, their tax assessor, to incorporate this, because realistically, this is rural industrial land. So realistically, we're not going to have, 100 applications every year. It's going to be probably maximum 20 a year. And we already process 200 to 300 a year. So in terms of the workload for the assessor, he said that it really wouldn't be a huge lift for him to do. The question becomes, if we accept this program, what about compliance? If you're having compliance issues, what happens then, right? Because we have to then go, the assessor would have to go in and determine that someone is in non-compliance. And then you have clawback provisions where we can ask them to pay their taxes if they're not compliant. So there's some of those issues. The other question that I have is, this program sunsets in January, I think it's January 2nd of 2024 as part of Senate Bill 1565. So the question remains, if it's in place, if the program's in place, what does that actually mean? If someone submits an application in December of 23, is it still in place for 3 years? I'm assuming so, but. The exemption period. Okay. So I don't know if there's an effort to make this more of a permanent exemption. I'm not sure. I was,
I hadn't heard.
it was on my list to reach out to Senator Boquist because
Mm-hmm.
he was a chief sponsor. So I can ask him to see if that's an effort coming forward in the next legislative session to make this more permanent. But regardless, it's an option now before it sunsets in early 2024. So I've been talking a lot. Any comments, questions? We don't have to pass this day. I just wanted to bring it forward because I've been meeting with some folks about it. They're interested. I'm under the impression or understanding that they've met with you, Commissioner Kula, before. I'm not sure if they've met with you,
I
Commissioner
think in
Sarah.
August of 2021. 'Cause
Yeah,
I was
a long
like,
time ago.
When, but there you
Yeah.
go. There's a date. Yeah.
Yeah, and doesn't seem to be any pressing need per se to do something like this, but I did want to bring it forward because it was brought to our attention, and certainly Abisha and I have had these discussions numerous times. So, comments?
Thank you, Chair, for that information. A couple of things. I know whenever a department head says this can be challenging, it takes a lot for them to get to the point where they'll say to us, not that we can't do it, but it's going to be a lift.
Mhm.
So I do appreciate knowing that our assessor is very quick to make accommodations for all of the different things that could come before him. When he talks about that perhaps being challenging in terms of certain aspects. The other thing, and I know this is really related to what Marion County has done, so we don't have to do it exactly that way.
Sure.
But a couple of things. So the assessor now has something else to determine in terms of disqualification, because we see it with farm deferral, timber deferral, but we sometimes don't see those assessments. We hadn't seen them for 20 years. So we've got a short window for him to make those considerations. And then he's got to disqualify the property, and then they have to be, the former taxes have to be assessed against the property. So
Mhm.
a couple of things come to my mind. I was immediately trying to, as you mentioned, urban renewal. Whenever we are taking tax dollars away from in any program, away from services, we have to consider those. So I always take that very seriously. Not that I don't think we need some encouragement for rural industrial projects. And the other part is the employment criteria. That's a little tough. And I look at this labor market and I wonder how we can possibly hold a company to that. So I do have concerns. It's not a no, but I want to make sure we spend some more time maybe with the assessor and maybe get some more information from Marion County, because again, if it's something that's been implemented, I always like to hear what the experience is, but
Sure.
I think this is a good start.
Yeah, I have concerns over the employment, criteria, whatever we set with this very challenging labor market. And we've heard from a couple folks who have grants currently with those requirements that they're worried about that, right? And we did see during, I think Derek mentioned it in here, or maybe it was in my conversation with him, but during COVID, there were grant recipients that essentially were in default because of just the enormous, upheaval in the markets and everything, that ended up having to make payments in lieu of being in default to their grant. So,
Oh, okay. Interesting.
there's always risk there. I do like that it's a pretty heavy lift. I mean, if you're the applicant for this is, you have to go get 75% of the taxing districts to agree that this is a good idea, which is kind of daunting. But the county is included in that. It kind of stems from our approval or denial of an application, and then it goes from there. But yes, I would like to hear from Derek as well. He is in the middle of tax season, so he's a bit busy right now, but maybe after the deadlines come due, I think he's got one next week. So I can ask him to come forward and
Yeah, I think it would be.
answer questions.
I mean, I have some thoughts too, but since you're asking that of us, I think it would be good to hear from him when he is available.
Okay.
Right. Like you said, it's clearly hasn't been a mad dash to get us to set up a program.
Right.
From the general public. I will I thought that I should declare a potential conflict of interest, but because I own farmland and, we could put it, a qualifying industrial development on farmland because I learned from, you prompted me to have to do a lot of research. And so I learned that Department of Revenue, if it's a property is appraised, if it's something that could be considered industrial as appraised over $1 million, then it has these categorizations. And so even that on farmland can be considered industrial. However, I saw on the Marion County application, there's so much to this, right? That, and I saw this in the other stuff, that qualified properties granted an exemption are not eligible for any other tax exemption, and otherwise eligible properties that receive property tax exemptions or special assessments are not eligible. Therefore, I don't have a conflict because I get farm deferral. So I'm sorry,
Okay.
but it was interesting to go through that process and be like, which properties really would even be eligible for this? And obviously, as I'm reading it, properties within the city of Newburgh, I guess, would be eligible. That would be one of the categories, right? So there are a lot of questions that I have. I think my initial kind of like foundational concern with how it's set up is that it's ultimately a case-by-case situation. And former Senator Bertschiger said in the work session or the public hearing in 2016, but see, I dove in deep. He expressed concern about this being the ultimate in case-by-case, that you're literally having people and businesses come and you're deciding on your own in a non-appealable process which of them,
Right.
even if they're all eligible.
Right.
And he had a lot of concern about that, and that was the thing that was kind of nagging in my head, was that case-by-case basis. I suppose that you could make it that there would be authority to make it not case-by-case, that if you're eligible, you're eligible. That would just have to, I think we'd have to dive in with county council about that. Ultimately, he did not, ultimately he did vote for it, but Senator Boquist didn't vote at all. And I assumed it was because he felt he had a conflict of interest or something like that.
Sure, and he definitely does
Yeah.
because of his, but I think what you're saying, the winners and losers, and we pick them all the time in government when it comes to using other people's money to incentivize people. So I think we have to be really careful. But I think we do that all the time, case by case basis, when we have a land use issue. Somebody comes before us. This board is making determinations on how people can use their property or if they can use their property based on their application. So we do have that, and it really is daunting when you think about the fact that you're making life-changing decisions for people. So I get that part, the winners and losers part. But I think, again, if you're eligible, you're eligible. And but again, it comes down to a numbers game, and how many tax abatement programs can one jurisdiction handle before it already becomes an issue when you start to see budget shortfalls in cities and counties and things like that. Not us, because the county has been very judicious in how they use their money in the past. So I don't know. I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think that at this point, for me, I think it's important to hear from our assessor, because it was very clear from both the testimony in 2016 and his letter and from the text, and that the assessor is a really important component of that.
Right.
The one thing I wanted to, I think that I would like to get information on is it accurate to say that anything that's in farm deferral it automatically isn't eligible? Because there's a lot of, in your very nice letter, Abisha notes, this is a revenue diversification and value add for agriculture. And if farmers aren't able to take advantage on their own land, then it starts to like, really, are we going to do this?
Right.
But there is industrial land, admittedly. We know there's a small amount of it because we always get these applications.
Right. And to your point, the thing is that when you look at what the deferral is, I have a timber deferral, and I look at what my neighbors in the next county are paying, and they don't have that. It's significant. So we have to look at that as a win in what you're not paying in taxes with those deferrals. But the other thing is Yeah, I think we need to look at that. And then we don't have a lot of industrial land. So that's a constraint on what we're able to
Mhm.
offer people. And this
Right.
perhaps is an incentive.
And then, and I guess a philosophical question for applicants would be, is this, but for this, would your investment in the community not happen? I know that on our farm, when we, in small scale, but when we do investments, we do them because we need to do them for our continued business success. So
Mhm.
it's not something you can really put in an application. It's like
Yeah.
rate whether your willingness to do this even without an exemption. But I think it's a question for us to ponder: is our business is going to do this regardless? Are they going to do the investment regardless of whether we have a property tax exemption or not?
Right. Yeah, I think one of my biggest criticisms of urban renewal is that they don't need our permission necessarily, right? It's these things are initiated by cities, and most of the taxing districts are kind of left out of that process, even though there's the confer and consult process. But it really isn't something that we bring forward. This is a bit different, 75% agreement, but part of the testimony, I read some of it as well for Senate Bill 1565, was that you still have 25% of people who are potentially not agreeing to this. So, and there was some
Right, you could have a
testimony.
fire district who's just adamantly opposed to it.
Right.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah,
interrupt
and
you.
we're talking about completely removing somebody from the tax rolls for 3 years.
Mhm.
And there were lots of comments about, well, why don't we just go fix the tax structure and the problems with our tax structure so that rural businesses are not, disenfranchised in any way.
I saw that.
That's great.
Longer
That's a big lift. But yes, let's do that. So definitely some questions. I also am curious about the farm deferral, whether that disqualifies somebody. I had another question. The sunset question was answered.
Mhm.
I also was wondering, because Derek did mention we have a 2-year construction exemption that we offer as a county.
Okay.
So if you are undergoing construction, I do not know what the parameters of it are,
Mhm.
but that he said that is on our list of capabilities, a 2-year exemption for construction. So
Okay.
I
You'll
would
have
like to
ask for it, I assume,
hear-
right? I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
I think so.
Mhm.
But he didn't really give me any details. I didn't ask. That was just part of the
Okay.
conversation. So I'd like to hear a little bit more on that too. If that's similar. Just maybe shorter term,
Mhm.
or we give you a little leeway if you're doing new construction. I'm not sure. So,
Yeah.
but this would apply not just to new construction, but also expansion and or personal property. So heavy equipment and that kind of thing.
Okay, that was the other question I had, is I thought I saw in the bill that personal property wasn't eligible, but then in the stuff I'm seeing here,
Yeah.
it calls it out.
Yeah, Marion County I think it specifically calls it out.
Okay, well, I'm assuming that I think I actually read an older one first, so
Okay.
like an unamended copy. And then Chair, I think a good thing to learn that I think the assessor could help us understand is what does it look like when somebody comes to us who's inside of the urban growth boundary or city limits of a city? And then is it inside of an urban growth boundary, but outside of the city limits? And especially with these, I think every city, right, in Yamhill County would be considered eligible under this, an
Under-
eligible location, because everybody is under
Under
40,000.
40,000.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, okay, so. Restrictions. Okay, I'm just kind of making a list that
Yeah.
I can send him some preliminary, we have questions about this, and then see when he can come before the board.
And Chair, if you could also ask him about, in other words, what it would mean for his office in terms of monitoring and compliance.
Yeah.
Is that something that it's falls on him? Or, who's going to be doing this?
Mhm. Okay. Okay, so I can send him this initial list and see when he's available, and then I will follow up.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Sound good? Okay.
Thanks for that.
We have all these experts around us, but clearly we needed to
Mhm.
get our thoughts out
Well,
first.
yeah, because, you know, he's got some experience with those, with the clawbacks too,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and what happened during COVID. So I'm just curious to see what that did for his office and hear specifically from him. So,
For sure. Well, thank you for bringing it forward.
Yeah. thank you.
And I now know so much more about it than I did.
HILOD, payment in lieu of default, HILOD. That's a new term. Okay, so. Okay. I think that was the last thing on our other business, which leads us to our public hearings. We have no public hearings today. Item K is announcements. We had a YCOM board meeting this week, and they are very excited about our new finance system. Because just little things I think that people are finding that they can do now. They can do custom billing for some of the districts that they serve, or some of the, I don't know, we call them clients, I guess.
Yeah.
Jurisdiction.
Yeah. So,
We know what you mean.
you know, some of the fire districts like to have quarterly billing, or, you know, annual billing or whatever. So now we can actually have some of those functions coming up here. So they're pretty excited about that. Lots of frustration about the power outage and PGE. Apparently there was really no warning to YCOM. And so when people started getting the text messages, they started calling 911 because they were freaked out about, you know, what's going to happen. What do I do? So we definitely need to be part of I think there's a meeting coming up with PGE. I need to talk to Senator Boquist about it, but definitely need some feedback from commissioners about that, and better preparation, because the communication to YCOM from PGE was that this is now going to be part of their business model, that we're just going to shut off the power when things are, you know, looking a little hairy in terms of the weather. So if that's the case, then they need to hear from us, and that YCOM had some challenges there. You know, at the very least, they need to know who those people are that sign up through PGE as medically,
Mhm.
not medically
The
challenged,
medical
but
program.
medical program where you opt in and say, I can't lose power.
Right.
So that needs to be communicated to YCOM so that they can make sure that those folks are covered. I did ask if we missed any 911 calls, or if there were any emergencies that happened because there was no power, and they haven't heard that, but that's clearly a problem going forward. So.
Well, thanks for staying on top of that, because that
Yeah.
was one I didn't know.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I mean,
YCOM lost
when
it.
you get a text message and then your power goes out and you lose, and your cell phone dies and you have no idea what's going on, people start to somehow, you know, get a hold of 911. And so we can't have that burden on our system. I did speak to the sheriff this week. Just a quick follow-up on the Oregon State Hospital, the individuals that we talked about, that the DA talked about last week. I believe there was a fitness hearing or some type of hearing this week to discuss some of those individuals. Okay,
Sorry, yeah, there'll be another status hearing on Tuesday of next week. And the individual's coming back from the state hospital today. And he'll be housed in the jail until that status hearing on Tuesday.
okay. The communication that I received from the sheriff, and then by extension, the DA and HHS, is that we will not be allowing this individual back into society. Is that,
No,
because that is an imminent concern.
that's not.
I don't think that
I don't know that I have anything to add to those statements. All I know is what I heard is that there are still some pending charges. He'll need to be evaluated to determine whether he's fit to proceed. And that, I think, is what will happen between now and next Tuesday. He'll appear before the judge next Tuesday, and then it will be up to the court and the DA's office at that time to determine what the next steps are.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
So it's entirely possible, based on those assessments, that he could be deemed either fit to proceed. I mean, the Tuesday is one hard mark there. So we've
Mhm.
got till Tuesday, and maybe a little background about the fact that a recent court case basically determined that folks who were in the state hospital on aid and assist had to be released after a certain amount of time.
That's right.
So perhaps maybe they wouldn't have been released. But I know that I have to say, Health and Human Services, or county council, administration, sheriff's office, the DA's office, they've been working around the clock basically to try to figure this out. And there's no set answer on what we might be required to do.
Right.
Yeah, this is not the first time this has happened. I think this, for a number of reasons, has gotten more attention maybe than some other occasions when individuals have come back from the state hospital to be reevaluated here and determinations made as to whether or not they're able to move forward. But if individuals are not found able to aid and assist in their own defense, then there are a number of options set out in statute, one of them being a dismissal of charges, another one being potentially a commitment hearing if they qualify for that, or some other sort of guardian or conservatorship that's set up. So they'll follow the same process that has been followed in the past. But I don't know that we'll know much more about what those next steps will look like until after the status hearing on Tuesday.
Okay. So the question remains, so that the assessment that was done at the hospital cannot be taken into consideration when we do our assessment at the county?
No, I don't believe that that's true. I think it
Okay.
will likely be taken into
Okay.
consideration,
Inform it.
but we'll do our own local evaluation as well.
Okay.
That's
'Cause
my understanding. The HHS will do that local evaluation once the individual is back here in the county.
Because I think everybody's intent here and everybody's focus is on public safety
safety,
and
yeah.
the safety of the community and.
Well, it's the safety of the community and it's the safety of the individual. So there's a lot of factors that are involved here. But HHS is aware, Sheriff's Office is aware, DA's office is aware. So everyone who needs to be informed and up to date on what's happening has been involved in the conversations.
Thank you for the update. I hadn't heard anything past my conversation. on
Yeah, it's been
Tuesday,
something
so.
that we've been continuing to discuss and up until yesterday afternoon. So it's an evolving situation.
Okay, and then the last update I have is from the Fair Board meeting this week. We did in fact have the best fair, highest grossing fair in county history. So that's great. They are now on to tackling some capital projects with a grant that came from the state. And so we might see that come before us just because it's a sizable amount of money for the grant. So they're excited to go through and use that to fix up some of the needs of the fairgrounds. And then next year, I mean, they just sort of turn it over and start planning for next year. It's pretty amazing how much time this takes to
Wow.
put on. But lots of great acts for next year. The feedback was that our artists, our musicians this year were fantastic. And so they are trying to keep it a little bit more diversified in that way. And so now they're talking about bringing Sir Mix-a-Lot next year instead of just the country
That
acts.
is mixing it up.
Yeah. So I said, well, my husband will be there for sure. But yeah,
Thought we were
so
gonna have to
really
bring spouses into this.
keep our spouses out. No, he'll be there. Trust me. He'll be like in the front row. Yeah. So great news from the fair board. They're very happy, very excited. So. And that was all of my announcements. Commissioners, any announcements?
I just have a brief one. Is that we there are a couple of public works related things in the ongoing saga of how to improve that the section of North Valley Road between Ribbon Ridge and Albertson. There was an extensive engineering study that was done, which itself was very costly. There's slide areas all the way along there. So the latest tentative proposal from Public Works is to just start to budget enough for one of the slide areas every year to do permanent stabilization and safety improvements there, so that eventually then the road itself can be rebuilt without having it run into the water, into the wetland again. So that'll be a slow process, unfortunately, but it's, I think the Public Works is realizing that the time has come to still do something with it, even if we can't afford a whole rebuild of the road and the hillside too. The other one is that Greg Hafner and Mark Lago and I met with the Federal Highway Administration on their public lands needs assessment to talk about some of the public lands in Yamhill County that have challenging ways of accessing them, including Meadow Lake Road out to Nestucca Access, which is the BLM managed roadway. And these are roads that we've identified that then they will put on their kind of their overall survey of access. That'll rank higher in terms of funding in the future to rebuild them. So like the section of Meadow Lake Road where it's very narrow and there's slides on, and there are bikes and horse trailers and log trucks all at once. Areas like that will get more consideration. So
Great, thank you.
it's a long term, but it's still happening. Yeah.
Good news. Thank you. And just to refer to the meeting with PGE, Senator Boquist has been working with the governor's office and with the folks at PGE, and they have committed to a meeting. And I asked that they include Polk County as well, so that we're not just having these meetings with just Yamhill County, that that Yamhill County and Marion County and Polk County be included in that. And the other thing is that the Mental Health Disability Advisory Council, which is a consumer advocacy group, meets, and I have to give a shout out to Tracy Dawson. What it is, it's eyes on the mental health services at the county, and these are either complaints or concerns from consumers and how they're addressed. So I always appreciate that, and we do have a new member, and that's Kathy Ann Meyer, who does work for Lutheran, but she's just been very active in these types of issues. So I appreciate the work that the group does. So that was a good meeting.
Yeah, it feels very valuable having folks who are consumers.
Absolutely.
of services.
Okay, any further announcements?
No, sure.
Okay.
Oh, I do want to say one thing. Megan Marasco, this is her last formal commissioners meeting formally as a member of our staff, and she's going to be leaving us, fortunately not going too far. She's going to accept a position and a promotion over in HR, which is
That's
probably a good thing for us to have somebody over in HR from our office.
Yes.
But I do want to say that Megan has brought an amazing, a whole new vibe to the office, I guess you could say. And her laugh, I can hear her upstairs, and she's just been wonderful to work with. And I am absolutely devastated that she's leaving us, but it's
She has a smile.
it's human resources gain and our loss, but fortunately we'll get to work together. So I just want to say thank you. And Ken,
Thank
did
you,
you want to
Megan.
add anything about Megan?
I just wanted to clarify, we're not really losing her. So she's moving to HR,
You sound disappointed.
which is part of administration. So
Well, I'm talking selfishly. When I walk in the morning, I'm not going to see her face. I'll see Carolina, which is fine, but she's my second person that I see. So thank you, Megan, for everything you've done for us.
Yeah, thank you.
I
Traitor.
will miss hearing your laugh.
Yeah,
Your laugh is infectious and it makes me smile every time I hear
it's
it.
wonderful.
So. But congratulations. Thank
Yeah,
you.
congratulations.
Okay, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, I will adjourn the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal and informal session for September 22nd, 2022. It is 11:29.
It's probably 29.